Okay, this is Trophy Gold, Hester's Mill. I want to begin by having everyone on the call introduce themselves. When I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and if you have anything else you'd like for us to know about you, you can share that as well. How long have you been gaming? What's your familiarity with Trophy? Do you have an internet handle you want to share? Any kind of project you're working on? Or nothing. You can say nothing as well, but it's all good. I'll start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I'm the founder and owner of the storied indie gaming community, The Gauntlet, and I'm the publisher of this game. I'm going to go over to Blaine. Blaine, you are muted.
A spacebar trick was not working.
Yeah, I'm told it's slightly unreliable. So.
Okay. Anyway, I'm Blaine. He, him. I guess I should start with I have written multiple trophy things at this point. Most recently, I submitted for the contest that hopefully we'll hear about later. But I also wrote a Trophy Gold module of the Halls of Valencia and had it laid out all pretty and released it right at the end of the Kickstarter. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Awesome, thank you. Jen.
Hi, I'm Jen. Pronouns are she, her. I've been gaming for maybe 3 years, tabletop gaming anyway. I haven't published anything, but I've written some stuff for Trophy on my own, and I'm a video game designer as my day job. And the other thing is that my dog is here with me today, so he might pop up.
Awesome, thank you. And Brian.
All right, I'm Brian Sago. I use he as a pronoun, and I started gaming when I was a kid, so about 40 years ago, and then kind of laid off post-college doing teaching. I teach art, and I'm a printmaker.
Awesome. I love your background. I don't know what room that is in your home, but I love it. I want to be there.
It's the studio. The room is the studio.
Awesome. Okay, great. So I'm going to begin by doing a procedure called CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. The reason why I do this is to establish some basic expectations for what we're going to be doing today. So the concept of Trophy Gold is a dark fantasy game in the vein of a traditional, like, dungeon crawler type game. You have characters who are going into the lost, forgotten places of the world in order to retrieve treasure. It is based off of a game called Trophy Dark, the companion game in the series. And unlike Trophy Dark, though, the characters are not necessarily doomed. They are quite desperate. Desperate is our word for Trophy Gold. I've got some other things I want to say about the rules, but I'm going to do that as we get closer to character creation. But for now, I think that's pretty good for the concept. For the aim, today we're going to, after I get through my spiel, I'm going to go over some basic elements of the character sheet, have you all make characters, we'll introduce characters, we'll take a break, and then when we get back from the break, we'll start playing. After we're done playing, about maybe 10 minutes before the session is over, we will do a debrief, and then we'll do that. If we come back next week, we'll just dive right into playing. So, the tone of Trophy Gold generally is pretty dark. It's a game that's meant to feel desperate, and the characters are maybe not doing this because they want to. Like it's just a very, like, kind of not quite grim, but it's pretty close to grim. It's dark tone in any case, and that doesn't mean there's not space for levity. That's but I think, like, we want to do our best to avoid, like, very, like, silly gonzo gameplay. That's not going to be appropriate for this. So in terms of subject matter, so subject matter wise, we're going to talk about safety tools in a minute, but the incursion that we're playing, Hester's Mill, the things that could come up, but may not necessarily, but could, are discussions of ritual sacrifice, some light body horror, quite a bit of blood, and there is some occasional, like, birth imagery. So not pregnancy so much, but just the idea of things being born comes up a little bit in this one. So just be aware of that. We're going to have 3 safety tools on the table: the X card, lines and veils, and the open door policy. So the X card, in this context, the way we use it and what it means is if something happens in the game that you don't like because either it's triggering content or it's just something that just kind of fundamentally doesn't mesh with how you think things should be going, you can exit. And you do that by saying X card out loud or typing it in the chat. I may ask for clarification on what's being X'd out, just so I know what to do, but I won't ask why is it being X'd out. But we'll change it and then we'll just kind of move on. The lines and veils. Lines are things that we absolutely do not want in the game. Veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer to keep it off screen. We're not going to role play it. I'll give you the option of saying your lines and veils now on the call, or if you prefer, you can message me in Discord and I will make sure to convey them to the group. But I will say mine right now. Lines, no sexual violence. We're not going to do it, and it's just not going to be a thing. Another line is going to be violence towards small children. I'm going to X that out as well, or line it out. For veils, I'm going to say torture. I don't care if torture is a thing that happens. I just prefer not to roleplay that, but otherwise we're good. If anyone has any lines and veils they want to offer now, I will just wait a few seconds. Otherwise, I'll pay attention to Discord. I'll look at the Discord on the break to see if there's anything else. So.
I basically share the same as you, so I have no other ones to add.
Cool. Right. And then we have open door policy in effect. Basically, that just means you can leave. There's nothing stopping you. You don't have to explain yourself. As a courtesy, you might tell us you're leaving, but otherwise you can just go for whatever reason. So. And those are going to be our safety tools. Does anyone have any questions about the cats? Okay. In that case, I do want to get straight to making characters. But before we do that, I want to just run through briefly some things you need to know on the character sheet, just to make the process of picking things for your characters a little bit more informed. If you are watching this video, there will be a link to the character keeper in the show notes if you want to follow along with this part. So if you take a look at the character keeper, we have your character's name, we have your name, we have your character's occupation. Your occupation comes with 3 skills. So whenever you choose your occupation, that skills part will get populated with 3 different skills. Nice. Skills are used in basically not every die roll, but many die rolls. You can exploit your skills to get bonuses on the die rolls. You will be using them a lot. They are the major sort of thing that your character can do. Okay. You also have a background which comes with a skill as well. Going further down, where it says training and household, that those are advanced things. You don't need to worry about that yet. Down where it says rituals, you can have between 0 and 3 rituals. Rituals are just magic, basically, like big ritual magic. You can choose up to 3, or you can have none. Every ritual that you choose increases your starting ruin. Ruin is a score that is essentially your hit points. Whenever you hit 6 ruin, your character is out of the game. If you start with 1 ritual, your starting ruin is 2. It would be 1 normally, but with 1 ritual, your starting ruin is 2, and it can never get lower than 2. So rituals are great, but if you choose too many, like if you had 3 rituals, your starting ruin would be 4, and your character's always really close to being dead, so or pretty close. So just keep that in mind as you are making that decision for your character. Then there's library, which you can ignore for now. That's just kind of an advanced thing. The rituals you choose there are for later. Okay, in the middle part of the character keeper, we have your character's drive. That will come from the character creation portion of the rules, which we'll talk about in a bit. But basically, this is just the thing that motivates your character. We have the hoard. This is what your character is trying to accomplish. You want to collect gold to ultimately put in your hoard in order to satisfy your drive. There's an equipment section. There will be 3 slots filled in, and then there will be 3 open slots. Those are the drop-down slots. The drop-down slots they basically represent like stuff you have in your backpack, but we don't need to know what it is until you need it. So if you're in a situation where it'd be really handy to have a crowbar, say, you could just say, oh yeah, I've got a crowbar, and you drop down and put it in there, and now you have it. It's an abstraction of like your preparedness, basically. Armor and weapons. Armor allows you to absorb hits in combat. It's very helpful. It can make a big difference in whether your character survives or not. Weapons allow you to engage the combat roll mechanic. Found equipment is just stuff you find during the incursion. And then conditions are usually negative traits that affect your character in different ways. And then on the right-hand side, we have burdens. Burdens is a score that is, I have to remember how you calculate it, but basically it's an amount of gold that you have to have on you when you return to town. If you don't meet your burdens in gold when you return to town, your character retires penniless and destitute, and they're out of the game. There's a space to track your gold there, and then there's a space to track your ruin. And then on the very, very far right-hand side, we have the rules for the 3 different roles in the game: the hunt roll, the combat roll, and the risk roll.
Nice.
On the other tabs, we have a tab for the Bestiary. Bestiary, basically, you all, as you encounter monsters, are able to name them and learn things about them, and that's where we track that information. And then there's a tab here called Town. I've never used this tab in this character keeper. I don't know if we're going to use it. We'll see when we get there. For now, though, I think that's enough to get started. You may want to have the PDF of the Trophy Gold rules open. That's in the folder as well. If you scroll down to page, let's see, it looks like page 6 and 7 of the PDF. Oh, and 8 as well. 6, 7, and 8 have all the different options for your characters, names and things like that. In particular, it's got those things that do not have a drop down on the character keeper, like the backpack equipment, stuff like that. So with that in mind, I'm going to pause the recording while we make characters, and we will rejoin the recording when we're done. Okay, we're back. We are going to go in the order of the character keeper and introduce characters. It's okay if you do not yet know a lot of backstory stuff for your character, because we're going to discover that as we play. But with that in mind, let's just go through and start with Blaine and Dion. Tell us about Dion.
Yep. Dion is a hedge, so they're skilled in curses, improvisation, and spirits. They are an uninspired artisan. So they have skill in craft, but they took the ritual switch, touch to swap bodies with another, and their drive is to break the gesh placed by the Witch of Navask.
I love gesh. It's a great word. It's a great fantasy-ass word.
I am notably a fan of it as well.
Awesome. We'll talk about what that means as we get going. I'm just taking a look, see if I have any other questions. And if anybody else has questions, by all means, jump in. I notice you have a protective amulet as your armor. That's really intriguing. At some point, I'm going to want to know what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. Thank you. All right, Jen, please tell us about Rasé.
All right. Rasé is a bodyguard, so she's skilled in protection, speed, and vigilance. She's a runaway Kingsguard, so she has tracking from that. And her drive is to give her betrothed the present that they crave. And the ritual is Hold, which is placing a warding sigil on a door or a portal to prevent anything from crossing for a short time.
Oh, that will be very helpful, I imagine. Good, awesome. And just taking a look, give your betrothed the present they crave. We're going to talk about that. I don't need to know yet, but probably at some point soon. Awesome. And Brian, please tell us about Korkuluk?
Yeah. So Korkuluk is an orphaned mannequin, if you can imagine a thing that is part porcelain and part twigs, with a kind of scraggly looking burned up bits of twigs sticking out that are reminiscent of facial hair. I'm an antiquarian, and my drive is to find a descendant of my deceased master, or my deceased creator. My two rituals are rewind, to slide time back a little bit for individual creature or being, and then mask. If I cover my face and remain stationary, I am sort of indiscernible.
Nice, I like it.
Did you have armor also? I'm sorry, or no?
Oh, please tell us. Yeah, by all means.
So the armor I'm wearing is just some braided corn husk, kind of layered so thick that it's akin to a gambeson, sort of a padded armor, and then a porcelain colander tipped on my hat.
Nice, I love it. Great. Okay. I think that's pretty good for character introductions. I don't think I need to know anything else at this point. I'm going to go through some just big bullet point basics about the Trophy Gold rules, things you kind of need to know as we begin, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll start playing. So there are a few things that I think are important to understand about Trophy Gold at the outset. And one of those things is the fact that it has dual philosophies of play to win and play to lose. And that seems contradictory, but here's what it means. Play to win. You should try to keep your character alive. You should try to get gold, the treasure. You should try to solve problems and defeat things, and just do all the things that you would normally expect an adventurer to do. But play to lose, which means if it's not looking great, if you are definitely going to be dead, or if there's a big moment like where sacrificing yourself would be cool, like keep that in mind. Keep in mind that that's an opportunity to look badass, to show us how you go down. There's joy in that as well. So that's what play to lose means. Compared to Trophy Dark, which is just play to lose. It assumes the characters are going to be broken or dead by the end, and so you are playing to have the best broken or dead ending you can have. Another thing about Trophy Gold that I think is really important to know is that I think it's really important to understand the function of the hunt roll and the hunt roll token economy and set goals. This is a distinctly different thing from other role-playing games. I would go so far as to say it's novel. But the idea is, as your characters enter a space, there's going to be information that your characters know, and there's going to be information that we know as a play group, in-character information versus out-of-character information. And we switch back and forth between those things. That's an important idea in Trophy Gold. And part of that is when we enter a new space in the incursion, which is what we call a dungeon in Trophy Gold, when we enter a different part of it, called a set, I will tell you what the goal of that set is. And that goal is frequently something that your characters don't actually know about. It is strictly out of character information most of the time. And that's okay, because the goal is something that we care about as players. The characters don't necessarily care about it. We care about it for them, but they don't necessarily know or are aware of it. It represents a beat in the story, basically, right? And so you'll be collecting this currency called hunt roll tokens throughout. And the hunt roll tokens are your power as a player to decide when you're ready to accomplish the goal. Like whenever you as a player decide, you know what, I think it's time to just move past this, to go ahead and find the thing that we're looking for. Or, you know what, I just want to know what's going on here. And set goal says we get to know what's going on if we accomplish it. So let's just spend the tokens. And you spend your tokens as a group, 3 of them, to accomplish the goal. This currency also gives you the power to have a little more control over meeting your burdens. So if you need some treasure to meet your burdens before going back to town, you can spend your hunt roll tokens to find some treasure. You spend 1 hunt roll token and you get 1 treasure worth 1 gold. Doesn't matter when you spend it, doesn't matter where you spend it, you always get it. So understand that the hunt roll tokens are a way of you sort of having some control over the narrative, right? That's important to understand. Another thing to know, though, is that you don't have to spend hunt roll tokens to meet a set goal. You can just get the set goal naturally because you accomplish it in the fiction, and that's okay too. And I'll let you know. I'll be like, oh yeah, you've accomplished it, great. No need to spend tokens. So, but you have the tokens as a sort of short circuit, right? Another thing to know, the last thing I'll say, is that this game is a little bit more like an OSR or traditional role-playing game in the sense that you as a player have to bring some ingenuity to the proceedings. It is not like, say, Dungeon World, where in Dungeon World you roll discern realities or spout lore or something like that, and your character knows the thing because the dice said they do. That's not how this works. You have to like do things in this game. You have to like do things that are that like interact with the environment that would plausibly lead to you learning something. And so very often you'll do something and I'll have you roll the hunt roll and you'll get a success on the hunt roll. You might get a 6, but I won't tell you anything because there's nothing there to be told, right? You might get a 6, like let's say, oh, I want to go search under that bed. Okay, roll your hunt roll. Okay, I got a 6, yay. Well, there's nothing under the bed. So because there's nothing there, or whatever. You still get a hunt roll token, and that's sort of the benefit of doing the hunt roll. Like, you're going to get the token, so the token can help you control kind of parts of the story, but you don't necessarily always find something. That's important to know. If you're accustomed to, say, Dungeon World or similar games, a success always leads to finding something. That's not the case here. You have to kind of do the right things, or at least come up with a good plan, right? So you'll kind of see how it goes in play, but I just want to kind of throw it out there because players, especially who come from Dungeon World to this, have a hard time with this part of the rules. So I wanted to kind of throw it out there now. And I think that's it. So does anyone have any questions?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and we'll get started.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's get started. Hester's Mill. The tiny village of Hester's Mill is located somewhere in the lands known as Tauren's Bend. And this is what you know about it. Over a century ago, Tauren's Bend was ruled by a usurper lord named Galdrin. And Lord Galdrin was a heretic, and he routinely defied the teachings of the sisters, going so far as to mock Hester, the local saint of the harvest. The people of Hester's Mill, said to be extreme religious fanatics in the histories, rose up against this Lord Galdrin, overthrew him, burned down his keep, and murdered all of his soldiers. The sisters, and Saint Hester in particular, were so appalled by the brutality of the people of Hester's Mill that they laid a curse upon all of Tauren's Bend, which caused the land to go fallow and the village of Hester's Mill to wither away. Tauren's Bend eventually recovered, but the lands remain uninhabited. People are just too superstitious to go back. And so now it's actually overgrown. It went from fallow to completely overgrown. You all believe that Hester's Mill and its surroundings contain abandoned valuables that can be sold to merchants and antiquarians. And so that's why you're headed that way. You are a few days west of Fort Durin. Fort Durin being the launching pad for numerous incursions into dangerous parts of the world, particularly the terrible forest, the old Kaldor forest. Most everyone goes east to the forest, but you're going west to Hester's Mill, and that's where we find you. Our first set is Tauren's Bend, and the set goal is to find the road to the village of Hester's Mill. Now, the region of Tauren's Bend, it's named that because its northern border is a semicircular bend in the titanic Tauren River. So imagine this titanic river, and these lands are nestled within that bend. The river's huge. Like if you're on the edge of it, it looks like an ocean, right? It's enormous. So you're in these lands. It's some of the most arable land on the continent, but like I said, it's totally overgrown. Because it's overgrown, all the roads are overgrown and hard to find. And this area hasn't been reliably mapped in decades. So you're kind of just wandering there trying to find Hester's Mill, essentially. And so you've been in Tauren's Bend for the better part of the day. The sun, for most of the day, was hanging high in the sky, very golden and hot. At one point, you encountered a wild patch of fat, round pumpkins, blazing in colors of gold and orange and green and purple. And the sun eventually starts to drop enough to where it cools off a bit. It's getting to be dusk. And right at dusk, silhouetted by the dusk light, you see a statue standing on a plinth. And a little bit beyond the statue, further ahead, maybe 1/8 of a mile, you see the ruins of a castle. That is almost certainly the ruins of Lord Galdron's keep. But the statue is where you're at now. It's totally overgrown around the base of the statue. And the statue is of a man, and he's posed in a way that is very similar to how the sisters are frequently posed, with their arms crossed over their chest. But he's not a sister, because all the sisters are women. But there's this man, his arms are crossed, and in one hand he has a sword, and in the other hand he has a sickle. And the statue is, it's weathered, and bits of it have flaked off over time. And then, like I said, a little further ahead, you see the ruins of the keep. So I'm just going to go over to Korkaluk. What do you do?
Is the statue made of stone?
It is.
Okay. I'm curious to kind of take my axe and clear away the underbrush and see if there's a nameplate or a dedication that explains a little more. I'm assuming this is Lord Galdron, but
I think it's a great idea. Go ahead and do a hunt roll. So
okay.
Let's talk about the hunt roll. You will, navigating the haunted spaces of the world is for the brave and foolish. Fortunes can change in an instant. When you press ever deeper in pursuit of your goal, say how you're exploring your environment, then gather some 6-sided dice. So you've already said what you're doing. You're going to take a light colored die just because you're doing it, and then you'll take another light colored die if you exploit a skill or a piece of equipment.
I have a skill in artifacts and another skill in myths, so it seems like exploring the history of a sculpture that is monumental.
Yeah. Well, you said you were using your axe to clear the stuff away too.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that would work as well. Like all of it's enough. Combined, you get 1 light die. So go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
2 light dice. All right. 6 and a 5.
All right, 6 is what we're looking for. Go ahead and take a token.
Okay.
You clear away this brush, and you do see a little nameplate that says, the words are kind of like chipped away, and it's not totally legible, but I think you see just enough of the name to deduce that it's Lord Galdron. It's like maybe the last half of his name, and then maybe like some words along the lines of, defender of these lands, right? Something like that. Let's go over to Rasay. What do you do in the meantime?
Yeah, so I think I would probably be looking for signs of people passing nearby to get a sense if anybody else was coming to find Hester's Mill's treasure. So I guess I'll probably just sort of investigate the ground for tracks, things like that.
I love it. Let's do a hunt roll. You get 1 light die, and then do you have a skill or a piece of equipment you want to exploit?
Yeah, I'm skilled in tracking. So
Awesome. Perfect. Go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
6 and a 2.
All right. You take your hunt roll token, and the answer is no. There is, at least around here anyway, in the immediate area, you don't see any evidence of people having moved through on the ground, but you do see some suspicious looking claw marks in some of the trees. So there might be something climbing around, but there's no evidence of anybody having trekked through here in a good long while. And I'm going to go over to Diane now. Diane, what are you up to?
I think Diane is trying to get a read on like the local spirits to see if he can glean any information from them.
Oh, nice move. Take a hunt roll, and I take it you're going to use your spirits skill here.
Yep.
I'd like to know before you roll, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's like partly just an unfocusing of the eyes, and he becomes a little bit unsteady on his feet as he's like giving over control to the spirits to interface with them in some way.
I like it. You kind of go into a sort of vague fugue state, sort of.
Yeah.
Go ahead and roll your 2 light dice.
Okay. I got a 5.
Okay, so you are going to take your token, but you encounter something terrible. So I will tell you that I don't think you're going to make contact with the spirit necessarily, but I will tell you that you have the feeling that there's more to the story here. The story that everyone knows is that this village rose up and overthrew a lord and all of his soldiers. That, honestly, that doesn't even sound plausible just saying it out loud, but there's definitely, you sense that there's definitely something else going on. You sense an extremely dark and evil presence in this land. The fact that it started to grow again should not be a comfort to anyone. And then you hear in the underbrush near your feet who's nearby? Let's say Korkuluk is nearby. Korkuluk, Diane is currently in a semi-trance state and is maybe not even able to respond to this. What do? There's a snake or something hissing near his feet.
All right.
Oh, to be clear, is Diane, what's Diane's pronouns?
Yeah.
Okay, I heard everybody else's, but I wasn't sure about that. Thanks. Sorry, Korkuluk.
Given that I'm a sort of a semi-human mannequin, I'm not super scared of poisonous reptiles. So I'm going to just walk right over and look and see what it is, having an axe at the ready to possibly rescue Diane.
Yeah, I like that. This is one of those interesting edge cases of, is it a hunt roll or is it a risk roll? And it sounds like you're just trying to see what it is, or are you trying to grab it?
I want to see it first. I'm assuming, well, I don't want to assume aggression on the part of this serpent. It might be a friendly serpent that can help us somehow.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's go with hunt roll for now. Go ahead and any skills or equipment?
Boy, an axe is about the only equipment I've got. Seems relevant.
You can always do your drop-down equipment too, if you something interesting.
Well, how about this? I use the handle of the axe to kind of, I'm assuming there's a lot of overgrowth here.
Yeah.
Use the axe handle to kind of clear it away and see what I'm looking at.
All right, I like that. Go ahead and roll your 2 dice.
2 dice. All right. 3 and a 5.
take your token.
Okay.
And you clear the brush away. What's the result? Oh, you encounter something terrible. You clear the brush away, and you can tell that the serpent is possibly stalking Diane. You're possibly stalking the serpent, or you're looking at the serpent. I think there's another thing going on here as well. I think as you bend down to clear the brush, you look over and see, maybe near the tree line where it's going to take me a minute to get names, where Rasay is, you see some kind of creature, maybe like a large mustelid of some sort, like a weasel or something like that, but quite big, who's maybe stalking the snake. In any case, there's more going on here. But the snake is just a snake. You can't really tell what type, unless you're versed in that kind of thing, in which case I'll tell you. But what do you do? Like, it's a little bit more of a tense situation than just there's a snake down here.
Yeah, let me interpose myself between the snake and Dion, so he's got a layer of protection. And then I will sort of gesticulate to Rasai, kind of pointing at these two forces, the large weasel and the snake. And
yeah, Rasai, you see this large mustelid. It's a weasel. It's basically like a big weasel, but it's big. It's like the size of a dog, and it's near the trees where you were looking at the claw marks on the trees. Maybe this is the creature's claw marks. Who knows? But what do you? And it looks like it's sort of scoping you all out. Maybe lying in wait. Maybe it was tracking the snake, and now it ran into you all. But in any case, Rasai, what do you do? Or Rasai?
I think I'll pull my hand back towards Kukuluk or Portaluk, and sort of just like wave him back a little bit. I'm not. At this point I don't know if he sees the thing in the woods, but I do, and I know that it's probably hungry, and I'd rather it be hungry for the snake than us. Yeah. So I'm thinking maybe if we back off, it'll take its meal and leave.
Yeah, I like that. Let's have a risk roll. I think this is risk roll worthy. Okay. So let's read the risk roll. When you attempt a risky task, say what you hope will happen. You've already done that. And ask, the rest of us tell you what we think could possibly go wrong here. So we all have the option, Blaine, Brian, and myself, to pose a possibility of what could happen if you fail. Doesn't mean it's necessarily what's going to happen. It's still my choice. But I think that maybe you spook the creature and you have to engage it in combat. Blaine or Brian, anything more creative than that?
It's a good question. We don't yet know what's at play here, really. We're if there's a greater narrative, if there's a symbolism to this that we don't yet understand that ties into Saint Hester.
Could be a big ass weasel too.
It could be right.
Yeah, and another possible consequence: the snake could entangle Diane's feet before he's able to get away. He's sort of being directed because he's still tranced, I guess.
So maybe the combat happens and Diane is like really vulnerable in the middle of it, kind of like that. Okay. Brian, anything else? Or are you good? Okay. So with that said, the next thing to do is you take one light colored die if the task is something you're skilled at because of either your occupation or your background, or because you're taking advantage of a piece of equipment or the environment. What do you think, Rasay?
I think I have protection or speed. So
protection sounds good. Yeah. Okay, you got one die there. And take another light die for Devil's Bargains. So let's talk about Devil's Bargains. And this is mostly for the benefit of people watching the video. A Devil's Bargain is an offer that the rest of us, make to Jen in order for Jen to get another die on this roll. And a devil's bargain is something that happens in the fiction no matter what. So whether Rasay fails or not, whatever this thing is, if Jen accepts it, it happens. So it has to be something that can exist in both the success state and the fail state. And the idea behind the devil's bargain is to take the story in some wild, interesting ways or directions. So you can add a lot of fiction here. It can be things that maybe no one saw coming. That's fun. That's good. So I will say that no matter what, the large weasel speaks with the voice of a human. That's my devil's bargain. Brian and Blaine have the option of offering something as well.
I've got an idea that might be too crazy, so shoot it down if it is. Given that I'm this sort of semi-human mix of porcelain and twigs and such, what if there's not just one snake, but essentially a little nest of young, recently hatched snakes, and a few of them get tangled up in the chaos in my body structure.
They become part of your body structure. That's kind of cool.
They fall out at inopportune moments down the road somewhere.
I like that. That's fun. Blaine, any offers? You can just say no too. You don't have to offer anything. It's always optional. And you're muted too.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Well, Jen, you got 2 offers on the table. Your choice, if you want to take one.
I'll take yours, Jason.
Okay. So you got 2 dice. Go ahead and, let's continue with the move, I suppose, before we keep going. The next thing is you can add a dark die if you are willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed. If you're doing a ritual, you have to include it. You can also choose to do it after the fact, so you can roll your light dice and then decide after the fact. So if you're happy with that, go ahead and roll.
I got 2 5s.
2 5s.
I'm fine with that. I don't want to add a dark die.
Yeah, you succeed, but there's a complication. The GM describes the complication, then you describe how you succeed. Okay, so you're going to definitely get you'll be able to manage the situation to where everyone's safe. That is your success. You get that no matter what. The complication is going to be, I think the complication is just going to be, I'm going to give you a condition based off something horrifying the weasel does. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. But go ahead and describe your plan of action, like making sure that everyone is kind of secure in the situation. What does that look like?
Yeah, I think probably after I've backed up far enough, I'll position myself in front of Dion, and maybe sort of haphazardly try and kick at him a little bit to wake him up, because now is not the time to be in a trance state. And then I'll probably just sort of grip my bow staff without even thinking, not necessarily with the intent to hit this thing, but just because I feel a little more secure that way.
Nice. And for the complication, I'm going to take over the fiction just a little bit. After you've done all that, the weasel seems to have backed off and gone back into the tree cover. But you start to hear a whispering coming from the tree cover. You can't make out what the whispering is saying, but you hear this. I don't want to assume what you would do, but do you go take a look at that? Do you investigate? These names are going to kill me until I master them. Rasay.
I think I'm more likely to just sort of freeze.
Okay. Yeah.
I haven't been dealing in enough mystical stuff to have seen that before.
Yeah, yeah. Tell me about your betrothed. You have a drive, give your betrothed the present they crave. Tell me just a little bit about them generally, maybe their name if you know.
Yeah. I think she's probably of higher stature than I am.
Okay.
She grew up with a little more money, maybe. I'll get back to you on a name, but
Okay.
yeah, I think part of why I feel so pressured to give her a gift that she craves is because I'm concerned that she won't value what I have to offer unless I can prove that I can uphold her standard of living.
I will tell you that for whatever reason, the whispering is reminding you of her. I mean, you know that can't be true, but it does remind you of her, like it's her whispering at you from the tree line. What do you do then? Or how does it make you feel?
I think probably I feel a little disgusted at myself because
Okay.
I'm in denial that it could be her or anything mimicking her voice.
Yeah.
So instead, I'm turning that inward and thinking, why does this horrible thing remind me of her? Who am I to think this of my betrothed?
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to leave on the table whether the other two characters hear the whispering. I think the only person who definitely hears it is you. And I think I want to give you the condition self-loathing. Take that as a condition. And then I'm going to kind of circle back. Otherwise, we'll say that situation has sorted itself out. You know, a few minutes have passed. Everyone's kind of like got their, kind of got their nerves down or whatever. Let me go back over to Diane. So Diane, what do you do next?
Yeah, I'm sort of curious. Did I experience anything going on in that translate state that would have shed any light on this?
No, you just got a sense that there's something, this land is tainted by a very dark evil, and that evil is connected to a bigger story about what actually happened here, that the real story is not, or that the told story is, the known history is not the real one. Yeah.
Would I have gotten a sense for a direction where that evil power is stronger?
No.
No. Okay. Yeah, I tell my companions, that there's some dark evil here that, basically sort of relay that information.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I just realized that it just occurred to me, the sheets don't have, another reason why I don't like these sheets, they don't have a place to put the tokens. So you will need to just note your tokens for yourself on there somewhere. I like to put them right under the character names because tokens are such an important part of the mechanics, but because I'm curious how many tokens you all have right now.
I currently have 2.
Okay. Let's just pop them up here. We'll make this yellow because it's important.
While you're doing that, let me ask, these claw marks, are they essentially, what height in the trees are they? And do they look organic in the sense of an animal sharpening its claws or trying to shed claw material? Or do they look like markings that are saying, go this direction, or some other symbology?
Oh, yeah. Hunt roll. What skill or equipment do you want to use?
That's a great question. The only skill that it might tangentially relate would be mimicry or obfuscation, but I don't know.
It feels like a stretch. Maybe something in your backpack?
Ooh, good question.
And there's always your sort of fungible list.
Right. What would I pull out? Maybe I've got a little tiny guidebook that's animal paw prints and tracks.
Oh, actually, so you actually have to choose something from the drop-down list.
Oh, it has to be from the, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a specific rule.
Gotcha. All right, so not a randomly created thing.
Yeah.
Looking at the drop-down list now. I don't think I see anything that's going to help me here. So just a single die.
Single die.
It's a 3.
3. Which is, you encounter something terrible. You don't lose your tokens though, so that's good. So you go to investigate. Are these trees, I suppose? Is that what you're looking at? The trees that Rasay had kind of pointed out?
Yeah, that had the claw marks.
Yeah. So I think you're at a particularly large tree. And it's getting to be pretty dark at this point. By now, the sun is pretty well behind the horizon. There's still a little bit of pink dusk light, but it's turning into twilight pretty rapidly. And especially with the tree cover, it's pretty dark. But the tree is pretty tall, I'd say a good 15, 20 feet. And you're looking at these claw marks, and you start to feel a little drip, drip, drip on your porcelain helmet from up above.
I will look up and see.
A little drip falls right into your mouth, and you see clinging to the tree, Spider-Man-like, looking down at you, barely illuminated in the faint moonlight, a quite emaciated man, I guess, person, very, very like thin, papery gray flesh, skin that doesn't seem to have much cartilage, like it's just pulled over the bone, razor sharp teeth, rows of razor sharp teeth, and sharp claws that anchor it into the tree. And it's looking down at you and just dribbling a sort of like yellow bile. It's ready to attack. What do you do?
I'm going to holler at her saying, Dion, I found it making the mark.
Indeed.
My
Everyone's able to engage the combat if they wish, but I think we're going to go to combat roll. Let's talk about the combat roll. Woe to the treasure hunters who find themselves face to face with a vengeful monstrosity and with no recourse but to swing steel against it. So when you attempt to defeat a monstrosity, first you have to say how you expose yourself to injury or attack. So basically, how are you vulnerable in the fight? Tell us that, everyone, and then you'll each roll a light die as you do so. And whoever wants to start.
I think I'm probably making myself vulnerable. The combination of my like instinct as a bodyguard to put myself in front of other people, and also my current state of self-loathing.
Oh, that's good. Yeah,
has put me in a point where I have less concern for myself than my companions. So I'll probably just throw caution to the wind and get right in between them.
I love it. It's perfect. What do you think, Diane?
I think Diane's just at risk by virtue of not having a particularly long weapon, so he has to get in fairly close in order to interface with that.
Indeed.
Anyway.
Corklick, how are you vulnerable?
Well, I already have a few drops of bile in my so I feel like I'm basically directly beneath this beast, and if things go poorly, it's just going to land right on top of me. And
indeed, it's kind of a scrum up there by the tree, really. Good. So everyone, go ahead and roll light die to get your weak point, and just call those out for me, please.
I have a 5.
5. Ooh, that's a bad weak point.
3.
3. That's a good one.
4.
4. That's exactly average. So good. Now, the next thing to do. Now, everyone take a dark die, and you are going to roll a dark die. Each of you, we're looking for the 2 highest dice, and we are looking for a total of 8.
Got a 1.
A 1. No weak point, though.
I rolled a 5, and I'm very sorry, Rasai.
And Diane, how'd yours go? Oh, you're muted.
I also got a 5.
Oof, woof. Well, Rasai, you got what you asked for. You are indeed in the middle of, you are indeed putting yourself out there. Good. So that's going to be 2 hits on Rasai, and but you guys kill the thing, so that's good. Go ahead, and we're going to go around the table. Everyone just describe your participation in the combat. I'm going to give the killing blow to Rasai because Rasai's taking all the hits. But so let's just start with Korkaluk. What's your first move here? What does this look like? Give us the first part of the combat, Korkaluk.
Oh, let's say that I swing my axe and take off a piece of its ankle.
Nice. Good. And Diane, keep it going.
Yeah, and like I think that like causes it to like come down from the tree, and I'm able to like get up to the side and like hook one of its limbs with my sickle that sort of manages to restrain it to some extent.
But Rasai, it is not restrained enough to not hit you. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I think when this thing falls down out of this little perch, I'll sort of like jump down on it and try and like kneel on its like gut area, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm trying to like hold my bow staff against its neck, but it's like clawing out at me and gets my armor. Something.
Oh, nice. Oh, you're gonna mark an armor?
Oh no, not my armor. I said my arm.
Oh, your arm. Oh, okay. Do you want to mark an armor then, or are you cool taking 2 hits?
I'm cool with taking 2 hits, and also I'm wearing greaves, which I don't think would really.
Okay. Right. Okay. So what does that put you? That puts you up at 4 then?
Yeah.
Okay. But otherwise, finish it off. Go ahead and kill it. What does it look like when you kill it?
Yeah. So this thing is just like spitting bile everywhere, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I imagine when I like force the bow staff down on it, I probably snap its neck, but it sort of like explodes some vomit out too.
Gross. Okay, good. I love it. Fabulous. Everyone catch your breath. Someone please do us the honor of rolling 8 gold dice, please. You can use a die roller if you want to do that. Looking for 6s.
Who's got it? I have enough dice, but if somebody else wants to do it, I can.
I have enough dice as well, either way.
Go for it.
Someday soon you will have actual proper gold dice. Maybe if you back to that level, I guess.
I just got the trophy dark dice for now.
Except from one of the contests, from the dark contest.
Yeah.
Those are so nice.
Yeah, I like them. I've got mine over here too. I've got some of the light ones too, but they're not the final light ones. They're like the halfway done light ones.
All right, 8 dice. Here we go.
Looking for 6s.
That is 2 6s.
2 6s. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and so the new trophy gold rules. There's a new part of the bestiary that's going to be added to the final rule set, which is not part of the current rule set. Is that one of the things you get to do for the bestiary is you get to define what parts of this creature's body are harvestable to be sold. So, and you get to choose a number equal to the number of hits you get on the gold die. So let's just go around the table. Since Korkaluk, let's have Brian and Jen decide. So Brian, you choose one thing to harvest, and that's going to be a permanent. We'll note that permanently on the bestiary sheet.
All right. How about a bloated yellow liver?
Oh, nice. That's good. Bloated yellow liver. I love it. And Jen, what else are we taking from this thing?
I learned the hard way exactly how sharp its fingered claws are, so
Indeed.
I'll get one of those off.
Claws. Nice. Okay, so we have, and now the next thing to do is we have to name this thing. You all have the right to name this creature, and that is forever what it will be known as. You can discuss that, or if somebody has a great name ready to go, call it out.
Yeah, I don't have anything good offhand, like something to do with its claws would make sense.
Speaking as the guy who's still wiping yellow bile off of his I feel like it needs something regarding dripping in its name. What about the bilious tree scratcher?
Is that a word? Bilious? Is that what that means? Bile? Is bile and bilious the same? I need to look this up.
The yellow humored.
Oh, it is. Yeah, bilious. Yeah.
Yellow humored what?
The yellow humored tree sketcher. Just like bringing it back to the humors.
Go for it.
Yellow humored. Are we happy with tree scratcher? Tree scratcher? Is that what we're doing? Yellow humored.
Sounds like we're talking about like a weird frog or something.
I know. Yeah, it sounds like. Yeah, I know. It's emaciated. It crawls. It stalks in the night. Those are all great words. Yellow humored.
Climber? We know it climbs things.
Stalker, climber.
Lurker.
What was it?
Lurker?
Oh, lurker. That's good. Is everybody happy with lurker? I like that.
Yeah.
Yellow humored lurker. That's a good name. Awesome.
Can we tell, was this yellow humored lurker once human, or is it a entity unto itself?
Difficult to tell. I mean, if you want to spend some time investigating, I'll let you. But offhand, I don't know. I don't know. Okay, great. So we have the yellow humored lurker. Awesome. And it has 8 endurance. Okay, so let's just pick up the scene again. So you've just cracked this thing's neck. It's there. You've taken out its liver. You've extracted its claws. Also, whoever wants to take those things, you can put those in found equipment. You'll note them as the body part and then put 1 gold next to it. You don't mark that gold in your general gold. The general gold is just for like your literal coinage that you find. But one of you can have found equipment, yellow humored lurker liver, and one head yellow humored lurker claw. Whoever wants to take what, go for it.
I will take a liver.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? Can we like kind of hold up one of these claws to the tree to see, does this claw mark match the tree?
I'll give you that for free. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Guess I'll take the claws if Versailles isn't claiming them.
Go for it.
Well, okay. It is fully dark now at this point, or twilight at this point. We have, there's still a statue there. We have the ruins up ahead. You all have tokens among you if you want to fast forward to doing set goal. You can go investigate the ruins. You can continue investigating the statue if there's anything else you want to do there. The possibilities are endless. I'm going to start with Rosé. Rosé, what do you think? What do you want to do?
All right, like I said, Blaine.
Sorry.
I'll probably how much ruin is there left of the ruin?
Good question. At a glance, what you would see easily is that there's still structures standing. Like there's still walls, there are still like physical structures. But you can also, when it was more light, you could see burn marks on the stone. You could see rubble as well. But it's still, great big parts of it are still intact.
I think if there's enough intact that it looks like I could take shelter, I might start walking that way, if only because I want a cleaner place that isn't covered in fresh vomit to sort of dress my wounds.
You just by looking at it, you'll know that you can definitely find some kind of structure to make camp in if you want to. So,
Cool.
okay, well then, Korkalik, what are you doing?
I may have missed one thing. What's the distance from the statue to the ruins?
Oh, about 1/8 of a mile, I said. It's like,
Okay.
it's real close. Yeah.
Okay. So we can make it there. So it seems like we should sort of set up a camp for the night in the unexplored ruins. How do y'all feel about that?
Rosé sounded like she was all about it.
I'm good with that.
I certainly see the merit of a non-vomitous campsite, but also wonder about just like hopping into a set of ruins and then immediately, starting up a fire to make some tea and cookies and have a nice sleep.
If nothing else, you'll have more walls to hide behind.
Yeah, I don't know. What are your feelings? Are we safer in one or the other location?
Yeah, Diane, chime in. What do you think?
We can always find a choke point and then keep a watch. It's
All right,
one entrance instead of thousands.
let's do it.
Good point. Okay, so it's a short jaunt over to the ruins. As you approach, I will tell you that there are enough breaks in the walls that you can kind of like climb over and get into the central structure. It's actually several structures kind of nested. And yeah, so it sounded like this, so Rosé, it sounded like you were interested in finding one of these like defensible places, right?
Yeah, in part because I think it'll be a better place to take camp, and
Yeah.
I probably gravitate towards places that are better to guard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I mean, if one of these places is more together, then we might be able to find something of value here.
I think that's very smart. So go ahead and do a hunt roll, and you can take advantage of protection as you've described it. So 2 dice.
2 threes.
2 threes, you said?
Yep.
Indeed. Let me take a look at the incursion here. So you are rummaging around in these ruins, trying to find like a structure that you can get into that's intact, maybe possibly keeping your eyes open for treasure or something valuable, because that is ultimately what you're all here to do. And I'm assuming that Korkalik and Diane are fairly close by. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
And so Korkalik, I think you see it first. There is a bit of masonry on a partially busted wall that Rosé manages to bump and cause it to shift, and this large piece of masonry is now going to fall on top of Rosé. What do you do?
Am I close enough to shove her out of the way?
I think so. Go ahead and do a risk roll. That sounds like you've pretty well defined what you want to accomplish. What could go wrong here, gang? I'm going to say that Korkalik, you get crushed by the masonry if this goes poorly.
Can I sort of like add to that?
Please do.
Korkalik is made partially of porcelain, right?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
I would say that this results in a pretty permanent crack.
A shattering of porcelain limbs like that. Anything else?
It could, the masonry could collapse enough to cut us off from each other.
Oh, that's pretty good. I like that a lot. Well, ultimately, that's my choice if it fails, but let's go to the dice. So you get 1 light die if it's something you're skilled at because of your occupation or because you're taking advantage of equipment. What do you think here, Korkalik?
Oh, wait. Don't think I've got anything that quite matches that.
It's not feeling great, yeah.
I'm but a fragile construct.
Yeah. Well, in that case, let's just talk about Devil's Bargains. Devil's Bargain. If you want my light die, you'll have to accept the possibility that this situation is very noisy and attracts the attention of more yellow-humored lurkers.
All right.
Any other offers on the table? That's my offer.
Give me a better devil's bargain, please.
I don't think I have any.
Okay, I have a gameplay question. Can I offer my own devil's bargain or no?
You may not.
Yeah, I'm not coming up with anything either.
I've got a different devil's bargain, actually. Just thought of it. I think instead, no matter what, the shifting rubble unearths something that is buried. I'm not going to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, but there's something that's been buried here for a long time.
All right. So remind me, if I accept the devil's bargain, I gain a die.
You get a light die. Yep. Your only light die currently.
Oh.
Do I?
Without that, do I have any dice at all?
You can do a dark die.
A dark die. Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, let's accept that devil's bargain. The second one about unearthing something that may be good or bad.
Indeed. You got one light die, and you can choose to do the dark die after the fact if you wish, but that is an option, so go ahead and roll.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, you can roll it. If you don't like it, you can do the dark die.
Light die is a 4. Remind me, dark die increases my risk of physical ruin or mental ruin?
So if you take a dark die, you roll them both. You roll the light one again, and you roll the dark die. And if the dark die is higher than your current ruin, then your ruin goes up.
All right. At a 4, things get worse. Let's stick with 4 for now.
Okay. I will tell you that the way it's going to get worse is you're going to save Rasay, but you are going to, I think your porcelain ankle is going to get cracked. And you're going to have to spend time fixing that before you can walk properly.
All right.
Do you want to add the dark die to try to get a 6?
Oh, I see. But I need a clean 6. Let's just do it and see what happens. So we'll add a dark die. I roll both dice again?
You roll both. Yep.
All right. Nope. Still a 4.
What was the dark die?
It's the 4.
And what's your current ruin?
3.
Your ruin goes up.
All right.
And I think the ruin going up. It's just your ankle being cracked by a level. But otherwise, describe it. What does it look like? You say or say?
Oh, so I'm this patchwork of magically fused porcelain and twigs and vines, and it was a nice looking ankle with a little bit of gold filigree, sort of ornately put in there for no good reason. Or perhaps for sort of an aesthetic purpose, if you know the Japanese method of fusing broken pottery with gold. It looked great, and now it's this shattered mess, and I've got a leg considerably shorter than the other, unless you all have a welding kit and some ways to melt down gold.
I should add that you actually have the option per the rules of adding another dark die and rolling 2 dark dice on the light die, because the dark die was technically not the highest. Or was it the highest?
Oh, it was.
It was. Oh, okay, it was the highest. Never mind. You do not have that option then. Sorry.
Yeah, sort of. I need a peg leg that I can sort of braid into this or something to carry on.
But otherwise, Rasay is safe, and that's good. We can have that scene for a moment if we want, if anybody wants to react to that, and then I'll continue with the unearthing.
Yeah, I think I will obviously be quite alarmed when I first hear the masonry weaken, And I probably feel pretty guilty when Korkaluk steps in between us, because it was my idea to set up camp here, and I had thought that I had found a secure structure, but I did not.
Not doing any better on that condition in any case.
No. Yeah, so I'll probably be a little bit alarmed and check in with Korkaluk, see if he's handling this okay.
Yeah, Korkaluk, how are you feeling? How are you right now? What's this like for you?
That was a great ankle made by my creator. It really served me well for these many years. But hopefully, when I find the descendant can help repair it for me.
This is a good opportunity to ask about your creator and your drive. I mean, your drive is find a descendant of your deceased creator. Tell me one thing that will let you know you found a descendant. What's the defining trait here? Think about it. I'm going to go over to Diane. So Diane, while Rasay is kind of tending to a sort of shocked Korkaluk, the masonry kind of fell away and exposed a bit of earth, right? Or things kind of shifted and kind of fell over, and there's like a bit of like exposed earth, sort of on the exterior of the keep, or kind of near the exterior of the keep. And you start to hear a pounding, like a bum, 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 coming from the ground, like there's something or someone buried, and you can hear like a bum, 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 like someone trying to escape. What do you do for Diane?
So I think it seems fairly obvious that there's nothing natural that could have been buried for that long, and
That's probably true.
Like my first instinct is not going to be, oh, it's just a person trapped. I don't think, and with that, I think he's going to try and cast a curse to put it to sleep.
Okay.
So to get it to go back to whatever state it was in where they couldn't hear it before.
Indeed. I like that. So you have I
don't have a ritual for this.
Oh,
I have skilled in curses, so I'm trying to...
Got it.
It's like a more involved, long process. Probably
right.
Like I'm drawing a seal with chalk and
right,
that sort of thing.
I see what you're saying. So you're trying to get it to... You're trying to calm whatever this is, right? Okay. I like that. It does feel ritualistic in nature, even if it's not a literal ritual. Mm-hmm. I think it's an open question whether it will work. But I like where you're going with this. And so let's make it a risk roll. And let's say that you've already stated what you want to accomplish. What could go wrong here? This is a good one. I feel like there's some rich possibilities here. I think that your attempt at magic here, a sort of ad hoc magic, I would like to add, is risky enough and dangerous enough to that whatever is in there actually harnesses the magic for its own use or their own use. That might even be a devil's bargain in a minute. I want to hear what everybody else says about the failure though first.
Sorry, am I supposed to contribute to this as well?
No, just Brian and Jen, if they have any options.
For devil's bargains, yes?
No, just what could happen if he fails.
Okay, so I could see that this is, this ritual might take, or sorry, not ritual, this curse might take considerably longer to implement and might arrive at a later time that is not quite the targeted.
delayed reaction. Yeah. Jen, any thoughts? What can happen if he fails?
Maybe some aspect of this curse sticks with him.
Oh, like that. Okay, well, so let's take a look. You get a die because you're trying to make a curse here, so I'm into that. And then Devil's Bargains. I think the Devil's Bargain is going to be, I want to kind of reformulate my fail thing a little bit and say that, like, I think that, like, whatever this person or creature is that's buried, you are going to be, no matter what, you're going to have some kind of magic or psychic connection to them if you want that die. That's my offer.
Dion, what's your drive again?
My drive is to break the gesh placed by the Witch of Navask.
It's the Witch of Navask. It's
That's kind of where
Is that your offer? It's the Witch of Navask? Is that
a little over the top. Perhaps that the Witch of Navask, wherever this witch resides, is aware of what you just did.
That's pretty good. Yeah, I like that.
That was going to be mine. So.
All right, you got two options then. Blaine, what do you think?
I think I'll go with the psychic connection.
Okay.
It seems like there's all sorts of fun could be there.
Yeah, I think so. So you got one lie die, and then I'm not going to make you take the dark die because you're not technically doing a ritual, but you have the option. So go ahead and roll.
So that's actually 2 because one of them is for my skill.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, 2 lie dice. Yeah.
Just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Snake eyes.
Oh. Do you want to add a dark die and try again?
Yeah, I'm going to have to add a die here. So I still roll 2 light dice, and then I'm adding a dark dice.
Exactly. You roll all 3.
Three dice here. Okay, that's a 3, a 5, and a 6. The dark die was the highest, so my ruin is definitely going up.
The ruin is going up, but you succeed. Describe what it looks like. Well, we're going to come back. Let's take a quick break. Let's take 5, and we'll come back. Describe what this procedure looks like, and then we'll talk about the implications of you having a psychic connection to this thing. So I want to pick up with just visually, what does this look like, Diane? And what do you look like? I want to get a good sense of what you look like as well, Diane.
Yeah, so for Diane, he's sort of middle-aged man, not particularly tall, but hunchbacked a little bit. He's got fairly calloused hands. And other than that, just looks like the type of person you'd find in a village like Hester's Mill, just that sort of workaday type of person.
Yeah, for sure. And what does this curse look like when you're doing it?
Yeah, so I think it is, like as mentioned, he draws out some sigils and chalk and connects them into some sort of runic array, and then in the center of it, he burns just some local herb that he picked up on the way. And casts a drop of blood onto the fire.
Nice, good. And I think this is going on. As you're in the middle of doing this procedure, you hear a muffled voice coming from where the pounding was coming from. This person is clearly in some kind of box because that's the pounding sound you're hearing. And you hear this muffled voice, a woman's voice, that says, You're trying to lay a hex on me? I'll lay a hex on you! You fool, you have no idea what sort of power you're provoking. I am Beatrice Mandrake, diabolist and showwoman extraordinaire, and I will not be hexed. And how are you reacting, first of all?
I think this is probably like happening as it's like a little bit too late to stop the curse.
Right.
I
feel myself slipping into a terrible slumber. I feel all the power in my limbs fading away. My ability to resist is evaporating. But fear not, interloper, for my mind is powerful. And even though I stay here asleep in this box, I shall thrust my consciousness out into the world. It shall spread over the land like a spider's web, and you will not be rid of me. Do you hear me? You will not be rid of me. And then she goes quiet.
Yeah. And he'll probably mutter something like, "You've slept for so long, sleep a while longer." Just sort of a bitter...
Indeed. I'm going to check in with Korkuluk. Korkuluk, how will you know your creator, descendant? What is the telltale sign?
Yeah, so I'm looking for two things, given that I'm largely built out of clay. I'm looking for essentially the style of the artist. And here I'll hold up a couple of pieces of actual pottery. You can probably, look at these two and say, maybe the same hand made those things. You can tell when you're looking at a piece that it's made by the same artist. So I'm looking for that hand or the family seal impressed into a piece of clay by an artisan.
Good, indeed. And I didn't make it perfectly clear before, but you have a condition as well, shattered ankle, shattered porcelain ankle.
Yes, indeed. Speaking of that shattered ankle, I have a question.
Yeah.
About the rewind ritual.
Oh, yeah.
It says that you can slightly push a person or animal back in time. I love that Trophy keeps the rituals very sort of loose and open to what's the better narrative here. Mm-hmm. And I could see where, as I sit here lamenting my shattered kintsugi ankle built by my maker, I might want to pull back time and retrieve that.
Yeah, you can do it to where Rasay never steps below the masonry, right? I mean, if you want to really draw it back that far.
That's the question. I'm asking her a question that's sort of how literal do we take the open-endedness of Trophy's rituals? Because it says that this is to slightly slightly push a person or animal back in time. A single person.
Well, I think if you were to push Rasay back in time, you could avoid everything that followed, right?
So it brings everyone back in time.
I think whatever would be a natural, I think if you never had to push Rasay out of the way, you never would have been smashed by the masonry, right?
Would we lose the conversation we just had with Beatrice Mandrake?
No, because the masonry's still going to fall.
All right. And then the other question is, am I a person?
That's a good question. Yes, yeah.
Because a part of me could see down the road narratively that this ritual, I can help others with it, but I cannot help myself with it.
I mean, that's up to you. I think per the rules of the game, you can always yourself always counts as one of the targets, right? As a possible target when a ritual calls out a specific thing.
And then last question, in this masonry collapse, I took a point of ruin. Would I be undoing that point of ruin, but risking ruin by casting the ritual?
Yep.
Let's do it. Let's try and rewind.
You absolutely can. I want to check in with Rasay though for just a second while you're pondering the possibility of the ritual. Rasay, what are you doing in the meantime?
I guess I'm probably just sort of watching Dion. because last time he did this, we got into trouble.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, I was thinking of the yellow humored lurker.
Oh, okay.
Last time he tried to do some funny business with magic. That was where we ended up. So
he was just poking around then. I don't think there was even any magic involved. Was there, Diane? Or
well, you went into a trance state.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. That's right.
I think
that's
as far
right,
as I was concerned, that was magic.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what was going on.
But it was Corkuluk who provoked the yellow humored lurker.
Right, but we wouldn't have had to go.
You're right. Good, fair point. Yeah.
So I guess I'll kind of just like watch him carefully.
Okay.
I know that's a weird action to take.
No, I'm into it. I think it has an implication for the possibilities of how it could go wrong, right? Because you're kind of like involved, even though you're not doing anything. Well, I think this is a great idea, Corkuluk. I think it'll be very fun. You are certainly going to get a. Well, do you get a light die here? I don't know. Not based off your skills. Unless you have an item that would be appropriate.
So remind me, in casting a ritual, what are your base die rolls?
It's a risk roll, and so you get a light die for equipment or skills. You get a light die for Devil's Bargain, and you have to take a dark die because it's a ritual.
Okay, so dark no matter what. All right, and so mimicry, obfuscation don't quite match. All right, so what's the Devil's Bargain in? If I rewind time a little bit and try and restore my ankle. And
well, first of all, what could go wrong? I think what could go wrong is maybe we have a permanent time shift. That could be disastrous and fun. That's my option. That's my thinking. But I'll leave it up to if Blaine or Jen have any other ideas about what could go wrong here.
I'm gonna say, I guess if you go back and. Or actually, this has to apply even if it doesn't work, right?
No, a failure is just a failure. Like what happens on a failure is different than the Devil's Bargain. Yeah.
Then, yeah, I'm going to say that you go through this, but you still lose some part of you in the past. A finger, maybe this time instead of an ankle.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty close to a Devil's Bargain. Maybe that might be a good Devil's Bargain.
That's fine.
We'll talk about it when we get there. Blaine, any thoughts about failures?
Yeah, mine is sort of along those lines, so it might make a better Devil's Bargain. But like when he drops out of the time shift, he's disoriented, and then Risay is still like under the thing and it's about to collapse, so he's not like in the position to react.
Oh,
so things just play out.
That's a failure. That's definitely a failure, right? Yeah, that's good. Okay, so Devil's Bargains. I think my Devil's Bargain is going to trump them all because I think it's pretty good. My Devil's Bargain is you do the time shift, but there's a fluctuation. No matter what, there's a fluctuation, or Risay gets caught like in a little time flux and actually gets to see a flashback of what happened at this keep.
Ooh.
If anyone can beat that, by all means, throw it out there.
All right.
I will admit that I have the distinct advantage of having run this a million times, and so I know what kinds of things to drop into the narrative, but I fully accept that distinct advantage I have in this moment.
So I was about to back out and say, this is far too risky. Let's just give me a stump and I will strap it onto my leg and we'll carry forward. But the opportunity to learn about the history of the keep.
I think it's pretty great.
Jen, Blaine, what do you think?
Sounds good to me.
I'm all for it.
All right. So am I rolling a single dark die and a single light die?
You are.
All right. Ooh, a 6 and a 5. The 6 is the dark die.
Okay, so your ruin goes, just keep it there because you're going to fix your ruin, but it goes up. Describe what the ritual looks like. Describe the process of Risay avoiding the masonry, and then I'll take over for the Devil's Bargain at some point.
Okay. So the rewinding of time. I feel like I'm this mess of pieces of ceramic and twigs and vines, and that to cast this, I'm essentially unspooling small parts of myself. So I'm grabbing onto tendrils and unwrapping them and rewrapping them in different directions in a way to efficaciously switch how things came to be. In this particular case, I'm trying to undo the damage to my own ankle.
That's actually super interesting. If I can just have an aside for a moment, because so my family, or many members of my family, practice curanderismo, which is like Mexican folk healing, right? And one of the little things that they do, and they kind of taught us to do, is like you take a piece of twine and you wrap it and unwrap it to like represent like when you want to like get something out of your mind, you like think about it as you wrap it, and then you unwrap it to get rid of it. So anyway, I don't know, it just occurred to me.
No, curanderos have great ideas. So.
Yeah, it's an interesting practice. Sorry about that. That's great. I love it. And so, are you done, or?
Yeah, take it from there.
So as you are. So Rasay, here's the deal. You feel this, like this flutter in your stomach, right? Like you feel like a sort of rush, like when you're like on one of those amusement park rides that fall really far, right? Like it's that feeling, right? And you suddenly find yourself, you're in the keep. You can tell you're in the keep, but it's not a ruin, a complete ruin like it is right now. There are soldiers running around. You see a man who's dressed in finer armor and clothing than everyone else, who is like trying to like rally the men, right? And there's something chaotic going on. You can see a large piece of the wall in the room they're in right now is missing and exposed to the outside. And you can see fires burning in the distance. And then you see something crawling up inside the keep from the outside, like something on the outer wall crawling in. And as it rises above the crack in the wall, this big opening, you see this massive creature. When I say massive, I mean like Dark Souls boss massive, right? Like really big looming creature, right? It looks like a giant crow, and the giant crow is surrounded by a dozen smaller little crows, and they're nestled in a nest of thick, black, oily tentacles. And this nest of tentacles, the tentacles are actually like what's heaving them over the wall, right, as they kind of come up. And the giant crow opens its mouth, and you start to hear screaming coming out of the giant crow's mouth, the screaming of a man. He starts screaming, "Help me, help me, help me." And the crow regurgitates a half-digested soldier. The soldier falls out of the giant crow's mouth. You can see exposed bone. You can see clothing and armor melted away, but he's still alive enough to scream in terror. And the giant crow regurgitates this unfortunate soldier down into the smaller crows, and they tear him apart and feast on the parts. And the man who seems to be in charge yells at the others, fall back, and everyone is getting the hell out of there. Rasay, how do you feel? What do you do, even?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How corporeal are these things that I'm seeing to me? Like shadows or?
Perfectly corporeal, yes.
Okay.
You can feel the ground under your feet.
Oof. All right. I think probably I'm disoriented enough that I think I'm actually there.
Yeah.
I kind of.
You are. To be clear, you are.
All right. In that case, I'm disoriented enough that I forget that I was ever anywhere but here.
Good. Yeah.
And I sort of like hear this commander telling his soldiers to fall back, and I look at myself, and I have armor, I have a weapon, and I think I should fall back too. I guess I'm one of these soldiers, and I guess I'm about to die.
As you fall back, you will see, I don't need risk rolls here. As you fall back, you see tentacles like reaching out from the nest of tentacles, grabbing men who are falling back, trying to get away, and just pulls them up right into the gullet of the large crow. And the little crows get excited because they know they're going to get a meal in a minute. And as you're falling back, you hear one of the men refer to the commander as Lord Galdrin, which may stir your memory of like where you really come from, right?
Yeah. And I'm going to say that like I am so scared that my falling back is more like falling to the ground and scrabbling on my hands and knees. And one of these tentacles gets really close to me. Yeah. And just when I think it's about to like get me and in, the masonry is going to fall on that tentacle.
Oh yeah, and that's in the real world. The tentacle, the masonry is snapping you out of it. Yeah, I like that. That's great. I'm going to give you a little bonus here. You get to grab hold of something from the past and take it with you into the future. What is it?
When the soldiers were falling back, would any of them have or would Lord Galdrin have dropped anything?
Maybe. I think Lord Galdrin dropped like a ledger. He had like a ledger that he wanted to take with him.
Then I'll grab that.
Okay. And you come back into the present day and you have this ledger. The ledger is worth 1 gold, so you can note it as found equipment, ledger of 1 gold. But it basically is a ledger of like, I think it's basically like Lord Galdrin wanted to keep a record of like all of his, his transactions and stuff, like at least he knows he can go collect this or that, in the worst case scenario. Let's just have that scene, like that moment when, you're kind of like likely terrified, I imagine, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just typing down the ledger before I forgot.
No,
I think probably I'm like shaking and I have this book on my lap. And I don't even like care what's in it for a second. I just see it there and I remember where it came from. And at first I just sort of like throw it at the wall.
Right.
And then it falls open and I see that the pages are very old. And I realize that I've taken it with me and that it could be of value. So I'll go over to it and open it up and start looking inside.
Yeah. Do you have a skill that might help you interpret the ledger?
I don't think so.
I have a skill on artifacts, and I would be happy to assist in pouring over this delicious tome.
I just need just some justification for me telling you what's going on in this. The main thing to know about the ledger is that Lord Galdrin was pretty clearly taking advantage of and abusing the locals, like demanding more and more and more. Basically, that's the main thing you need to know. Like these transactions are designed to favor him and him only, right? So.
Got it.
So I think we've got a few more minutes to play before we go to debrief. So a lot going on here. You still haven't found a place to stay the night. There are likely yellow-humored lurkers in the area. Rasay, do you tell everyone what you just experienced, or do you keep that to yourself?
I think I'll keep it to myself for now.
And Diane, do you tell everyone about the buried woman?
I don't think he tells them any specifics, just like there was something there that we should probably not rest here because like that curse will hold for now, but he doesn't know for hell.
Yeah, indeed. Well, this might be a good time to take a look at your tokens then. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that correct among you all?
I have 2.
Okay.
Just one.
Yeah.
So yeah, sounds right.
You could pool them to go ahead and satisfy the goal, or you could continue searching the ruins. You could make camp. I mean, you could do any number of things, but those are all options that are on the table right now.
At this point, we've figured out this is not really a safe place to make camp.
Yeah.
Seems
So
best-
personally, I wouldn't mind pressing on to find somewhere that it is.
Yeah, I would argue let's press on and just camp on the road for the night.
So trading
Is-
tokens to find that road, I guess.
Yeah, do you want to spend the tokens, or do you want to try to go about finding it some other way?
This is maybe a thing I don't know or understand. We found these hunt tokens in this first set. Do they carry over to a future?
Yes. Yeah, you can spend them 5 sessions from now. Yeah, if you wanted to.
Okay.
Yeah, like I could contribute my token.
And you can also spend them just to get treasure as well. So,
Okay.
because don't forget, you have to meet your burdens. And if you suddenly have to go back to town because one of you's really, really hurt, you will want to have satisfied your burdens. So,
Gotcha. I don't know. I'm willing to press on for the road here and burn out my 2 tokens if that seems okay to the rest of you.
Yeah, I'll send in a token. I think you should only have to do 1 if Blaine and I also
Yeah.
contribute.
All right, so 3 tokens in.
everyone erase a token. While you are catching your breath, reorienting yourself, deciding this is not a super safe place to stay, you will notice in a gap in the masonry outside, a little ways down the road, or not down the road, because there's no road, a little ways down the lane or the way, in the distance, we'll say, you see the distinct shape of a grain mill silhouetted in the moonlight. And Hester's mill was a mill town. I mean, it was, their whole thing was processing grain. And very likely the road to that village would have led right up to the grain silo. So that grain silo, near that grain silo, has got to be the road to Hester's mill. It just logistically doesn't make sense for it not to be. So with that in mind, what do you do?
I think I'll let someone else take the lead this time. I mean, like literally on the road, like not at the front.
Am I correct in thinking that we're tired to a point, given the evening hour, that we should park ourselves and
Probably only like 7 or 8 o'clock. The sun was just going down when you got to the statue. It hasn't been that long.
in decent moonlight?
Yeah.
All right. Push further. Head towards this mill.
The grain silo is, you can trek over to the grain silo easy enough. And then if you look around the ground, clear some of the underbrush, you can easily find the road. If you follow that road for a little bit, it will take you to an elevated position that looks down on a little kind of valley. This is a new set. It is called The Road to Hester's Mill. The set goal is to learn the secret history of Hester's Mill. Now, this road is overgrown, but it's easy to follow once you find it. You're in this elevated position, and you can kind of see all of the important areas, basically for the remainder of the incursion. You can see what appears to be a campsite, because there's a fire. So that's something to take note of. Near the road, there's a campsite. You see near the road, or a little further down the road, there's a little shrine, a little building, shrine building. It's very common. Shrines like this would be erected to the sisters. And a little further down, you see what must be the actual village, because you see some dilapidated structures, the mill itself. And then to the north of the village, it's not super visible, but there appears to be like a large intact farmhouse. And to the south of the village, you see a hill, and atop the hill, there is the distinct shape of the gallows, which you can't miss. And so that is what the lay of the land is. You have the whole lay of the land here from your elevated position, and the moonlight is high and bright. Heading down the road.
Campfire is near to us. How far is this campfire?
Campfire is maybe half a mile. You can see the glow of the fire. And it's not spreading like crazy, so it must be a campfire.
Yeah, the question is, do we trust any travelers that we'd find here?
Mm-hmm. Was the shrine closer than the campfire?
No, the shrine's a little further down. So like the campfire's on the north side of the road, the shrine's on the south side of the road. They're close to each other, but the shrine is a little further ahead.
Okay. You're right about travelers on the road. Do any of you have any sort of sneaky skills?
Some which skills?
Ability to sneak around, to creep up undetected, or a ritual that would let you perceive what's happening at that campfire from a distance?
Yeah, I could always try and ask the spirits.
That went well last time. Well, it wasn't terrible last time, I guess.
I mean, the asking the spirits was fine. They just said, sorry, we don't know. Try again tomorrow.
I mean, vigilance is like, I think Rasay has vigilance, which kind of feels appropriate here in a way.
Yeah. You can see that.
So that's I think, and there's also tracking, which implies a sort of like figuring out the lay of the land, right? So I think you can make a case for both. In any case, you can both act, but my glance, that seems like pretty relevant to me.
How do you feel about creeping up and seeing who is at the campfire?
Yeah, I'll do that. Quick question, Jason. You said we can see kind of like the whole lay of the land from where we are right now?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, not super detailed, but you can make out the gist of everything.
Would I recognize that view from the like hole in the wall, look down at everything?
No, that would have just been like right outside the keep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, then I'll sort of sneak down.
I think we'll go ahead and let you do the, if you want to go ahead and commune with the spirits while Rasay's doing that, I think we could start with that. Diane.
Yeah.
Jason,
I
is
think-
this a risk roll or a hunt roll?
That's going to be a hunt roll.
Okay.
And it's two dice.
Yeah, I think Diane will say to Corklick, like, I'm going to take another look at the spirits. Do mind not to let anything happen to me while I'm gazing across the veil. And actually give him a heads up this time.
Excellent.
Indeed. All right, okay, I'll note that. Come back to it. And what was your roll?
Me or?
Yeah, we'll take them both. We got a 5 on the sneaking, and then or the scouting, and then we have whatever you got.
Okay, then I will roll those 2 dice and find out. 5.
Okay. Both of you take a token. We're going to start with the spirits. There is something in this land that wants revenge. You feel the white hot burning of revenge. How do you know that? How do you know that there's a spirit of revenge here? Vengeance is in the air.
I think it's like almost like a personified view of it. Like he can see the spirit. Like that's why it takes up so much of like his concentration and all that, is because like he is looking into like some sort of spectral plane, as it were. So like spirits obviously probably don't look in a way that is necessarily easy to discern, but like he's also had this ability for a while, so he's gotten fairly used to it. And there's just like some spirits have a certain look to them, and like I think like the aura of like a vengeful spirit would tend to be like more jagged and like barbed and like outwardly offensive in shape.
Interesting. You have to encounter something terrible too, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Let's cut over to Rasay. So Rasay, tell me about your process here. How are you scouting out this camp, making sure you're not seen?
We found the road, so now I think I know where to not walk. So I'll step off the road and try and find some like brush or something to hide myself in a little bit and be as quiet as possible to sort of go towards that camp. I don't want to get close to like the fire to investigate it yet. I just want to see if there's anyone there.
There's not. You don't see anyone at the camp. I'll tell you that.
In that case, I guess I would probably move closer to figure out how long the fire's been set up. See if I can figure that out.
You get to the campsite, and indeed there's no one there. The fire is still burning pretty fresh, though. It seems like it was lit fairly recently. You see a tent, you see a bedroll, you see some equipment strewn here and there. And you have to encounter something terrible, and here's what you encounter. You see, with the various pieces of equipment and things that are gathered, you see a bandolier, and hanging from the bandolier are withered hands, dozens and dozens of withered hands. I'm going to cut back over to Diane. And Diane, this spirit of vengeance is ancient, it's angry, and it's getting closer to you. And I think we'll just call it a session with that. Let's do stars and wishes. So stars and wishes is our debrief procedure. You will say, if you wish, stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, and wishes are things that you hope to see for next time. And I will start by saying a star. My star, I definitely enjoyed the role play, and I thought you all did a really good job of presenting your characters and characterizing them. It was fun to watch you all interacting with the mechanics. I thought that all went really smoothly. And yeah, so I was just really happy with this as a sort of how to play Trophy Gold sort of experience. I thought that worked really well. And wishes, I am very excited for you all to learn more about the secret history of Hester's Mill and to see what other ghoulish stuff is going to happen, because trust me, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. So this one gets really gnarly, and I'm excited about that. Brian, any stars or wishes?
Sure, yeah. Let me leave to the wishes first, if that's all right. We hinted briefly at the possibility of telling a backstory about our three characters, about how we know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to see in the ongoing narrative some moments where we flash back to how do we each know each other and why are we here together. So that's a wish. A star. There's a good sort of tangible, sort of visceral creep factor in this. Like it all feels textural and almost like I can smell the environment, which is really interesting.
Awesome. Blaine, any stars or wishes?
I will second the wish from Brian. It would be good to just get more of our like in character, how do we know each other type things. That would, I personally took a little bit to start getting into the character. So it's, I don't know, maybe that's something that I'm not used to with this more OSR style of game. I'm having a harder time impersonifying it. Stars, yeah, it's really atmospheric, and just there's sort of like an overhanging oppression, and I'm enjoying that. And then I will also throw one to Brian. I do really like your mannequin character. I haven't seen, I guess I haven't been watching anyone where they've interacted with the mannequin at all, so maybe I'll have to fix that.
Awesome, thank you. Jen, any stars or wishes?
I have the same wish, actually. For stars, I really liked the detail that Brian had about repairing the porcelain with the gold, because I've seen that in real life and it's really beautiful. And I thought it was a clever way to tie into the mannequin stuff. And also, I thought we all did a good job, kind of working together to resolve the combat role, which is not something not to say that I haven't seen good combat role in Trophy, but more that I haven't seen much of it. So I was a little nervous about participating in it for the first time like that. And I thought we all worked well off of each other's resolutions there to sort of chain into a realistic feeling.
It was a very good combat role, and it's exactly how it's supposed to go. That was a textbook perfect Trophy Gold combat role. So any other stars or wishes? We all good? No, cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to take the recording off, and then if we want to just sort of more informally chat for a second, we can, but so I'm going to stop this, and